Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the Magical Mystery Tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is science fiction and horror author Peter DeChristopher. Peter resides in Vail, Arizona, and in addition to being an author, is an avid blogger, musician, and he has also worked in the financial field while also publishing several articles on finance. In 2022, he published his first book, Pangea. And last year, he released his second book, Pangea, the Scrolls of Panduar. Tonight, we will be discussing his literary career. Peter, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. I'd like to start off by asking you, Peter, what led you to become an author? What were you doing before you wrote your first book?
Well, it's funny you ask that. I worked on Wall Street for 20 years, and I've been playing the guitar since I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So with the songwriting, and I've written songs probably since I was 14 years old. And I've always had an interest in writing. In 2016, I started, after being in Arizona for a number of years, I went back to college. And I started studying what I loved in my life, geology and archaeology. And part of the degree program is you need to take English courses. So I took a number of creative writing courses, and the teachers and the professors were insisting that I write more, and I write more. So I would start with short stories, and they would critique them, and they would say, you got to write more. So Pangea started basically as a short story, but turned into a 300-page novel.
Wow. Now, why did you choose, Peter, why did you choose science fiction and horror as your chosen genres for fiction writing?
Well, I've always been attracted to that since I was a kid. Always watched horror movies growing up. And, of course, Star Wars was a big inspiration, and Dune was a big inspiration. So that was where my attraction was, and that's what I felt more compelled to write.
Okay. Peter, please tell our listeners about your very first book, Pangea.
Pangea was taken from a lot of the courses that I took in college, particularly the historical geology course. It portrays a planet in the Sombrero Galaxy, which is 28 million light years from here, and it has a planet that has evolved basically into a medieval type of lifestyle, where the technology is not there because of the creatures that are so large and that take over most of the territory of Pangea. It has become where they live in almost like a Game of Thrones type of environment.
Okay. I'm curious, the term Sombrero Galaxy, is that a real live galaxy that really exists, or is that a mythical galaxy?
No, it's a live galaxy that's about 28 million light years from Earth.
Okay.
And it's a galaxy, and they call it the Sombrero Hat Galaxy because it looks like a sombrero hat.
Okay. Now, please tell our audience that you have a heroine in Pangea who also appears in the sequel, Pangea, the Scrolls of Panduar. Her name is Isolde. Tell us about her. Does she have magical powers? Does she have friends and partners and colleagues?
Yes, she is what's considered a sorceress. Isolde was born of two of what is called the Watchers of Pangea, where they're almost like they guard the gates of where the Ancient of Days, who is what the name of the god is, and where he resides. She was an offspring from them, so she has magical powers of a sorceress, and she was raised in what is called the Lemurian archipelago. She was raised by the queen of the Alicorns, Elisheba. So she was taught the ways of the Alicorns and has the magical power of the Watchers. She is basically the guardian of Pangea, and she has those powers in order to protect what was taught to her by Elisheba, her mother.
Okay. What I found interesting while reading the description of your books, your Pangea volumes, is that in this on this planet here, you basically take an opposite view of continental drift, whereas here on Earth, the continents are trying to drifting farther away from other. They broke apart. Here in Pangea, they're converging to create that singular landmass. I mean, what compelled you to adopt that kind of like an antithetical view of continental drift?
Well, as you know here, the continents have drifted apart. And Pangea, nothing is really like it is here on Earth because it is so far away. The physics are the same, but instead of going apart, everything has come together. And because it's all come together, the landmass is very large and it's very diversified.
Okay. Another thing I found interesting in your book is that you use the name Abaddon in your first book,
Yes.
Pangea, and that's something out of the Bible. If my memory serves me correctly, it's the name of the angel that guards the bottomless pit in the Book of Revelations. Where did
That is correct.
I mean, is that where you got? Is that where that inspired you? Getting from that? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the Ancient of Days is a deity type being or a god, and God, since we know it, has his angels, and also there was demons that were there. But because God is God, we do use familiar names that are demons, such as in the second book, you have Azrael, who is another dark demon. And he's named in there too, because like I say, God is God, and heaven is heaven, and hell in this case is the underworld.
Okay. Now, okay, Peter, let's talk about your second book, Pangea, the Scrolls of Panduar. Did I say that correctly?
Right. That is correct.
Okay. Please tell our audience about your second book, which came out last year.
Sure. Panduar is an extension of the first book. The difference is, in the second book, as we know, Abaddon tried to take over the world and failed where Isolde basically destroyed him and sent him to the underworld. Morath, who was his other disciple, was passed over because of Abaddon, and his revenge was to steal the Scrolls of Panduar, which are the holy scrolls that evil has created. And evil will do anything to get these scrolls back. Isolde now takes on another ally by the name of Lorelei, who is a nymph from the woodland realm located on the far side of the planet. And what they do and how there's one particular weapon that can kill evil, and they must search for it, and they search basically through the Forbidden Desert, all the way through the central Pangea, all the way up to the Oolong Peninsula, into the frozen continent of Tas.
Okay.
And that's how they get into the underworld through that.
Okay. Out of curiosity, Peter, what type of audience are you writing for? Is this more for young people, or is it for all ages?
It's basically all ages. I would say between the ages of, let's say, 15 and 55.
Okay.
Those are most interested in these type of books and movies.
When writing your books, are there any autobiographical elements in any of your characters? Did you draw anything from your own personal life experiences when writing your novels by any chance?
The situations are not. The situations are all 100% made up. Some of the names of the characters, though, I have used. For example, there is one character in both books, Harley Antonia, she is the head of the assassin group from the southern realm where Queen Lazuli rules. And Harley Antonia is actually the name of my granddaughter.
Ah, that's beautiful, beautiful.
So you want these kids, when they read about it, they say, "Grandpa wrote this," and they say, "Look, I'm in it." So that's how I looked at it.
Well, it's quite understandable. Don't laugh when I write my books. There are a couple of times where I might insert myself or a member of my family into the mix or something like that, just for a brief little interlude and all of that.
Sure.
Now, envisioning yourself as a writer, do you see yourself always writing about science fiction or horror, or are you ever tempted maybe to try another genre of fiction? Are you tempted?
I haven't really ventured into that realm yet. My concentration has always been on the things that I like the most, which has always been science fiction, fantasy, horror. Growing up as a kid, it was funny. Growing up as a kid, in those days, there was, 5 channels on TV?
Yeah.
And they used to play the horror movies on one of the network channels at 4 o'clock in the morning. So 10, 12 years old, on the weekend, I used to take my father's alarm, set up 4 o'clock, I remember getting up one time and watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
That's all they had in those days.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you can stream anything you want any time of day.
Yeah. Or heck, just watch the evening news, because actually when you think about it, the evening news is a horror show when you think about it.
You got that right.
Yeah. Peter, do you ever envision any of your books as being Hollywood material?
You know, I think at this particular moment in time that this particular genre is the hottest thing that's out there. And with Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, Dune, and The Wheel of Time, all of those type of shows are basically the biggest box office attractions. They gross the most money, and people, I think, want to escape, use their imagination, and see things that they don't have to hear about every day, between the killings and all the stuff that's going on in the world. You need an escape.
Yes. Have you made any type of an attempt, no matter how small, at approaching Hollywood or cable, to see if you could translate your books into, TV or streaming?
I've had some studios approach me.
Ooh.
And, we were still in discussions with a lot of different things. But, there's been an interest in it, because right now this is where everything seems to be going.
Yes. Peter, let's talk about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born on Long Island.
Ooh.
And I was born from Italian-American parents.
Ooh.
I grew up in a little town, well, not little anymore, a little town called East Islip. And I grew up there and lived there, basically lived a mile from my mother's house, up until 20 years ago when I moved here to Arizona.
Okay. So where did you go to school? Did you go to college, Peter?
Yeah, I went to the East Islip High School. I went to Farmingdale University, which is the state university. And after that, I worked on Wall Street for about 20 years, first as a commodities trader. Then I used to do financial planning for different banks. I managed a few of their investment and insurance programs. After 9/11 is when we decided that it was time to find another place.
Now, you talk about commodities trading. Is that thing where everyone is screaming at the top of their lungs about stuff like that? I mean, were you literally in that pit of madness that you would use to...
Yeah, but it was on a different exchange where we would trade either oil or coffee, sugar, cocoa. And it was a smaller exchange, and it was done down by the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Not too far from the New York Stock Exchange, but it was different. And it was a lot of fun back in those days.
Now, okay, when you tell me, when did you move to Arizona?
Moved to Arizona here in 2006.
Okay, why Arizona, Peter, out of curiosity? Why Arizona?
Well, we looked all over the place. California was crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And Oregon, Washington was just too cold and rainy all the time. Everybody was moving to Florida, and I'm like, this place is going to be so congested soon, which it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we moved just outside of Tucson in a little town called Vail, which is the size, I say Vail's the size of Nassau County.
Yeah.
In Long Island, and it's got 30,000 people.
Wow. And when you think about it, you talk about geology, Arizona is a geologist's dream when you look at the landscape there. I mean, you're literally looking at a history book of the planet Earth when you study the rock formations. Is that correct?
You really are.
Yeah.
You really are. And with the courses I've taken, we've gone out and dug for fossils, and we found so many interesting things. It's so much history here.
Yes. You're a musician, so you say you're a guitarist, correct? I mean, conventional guitar, bass guitar, I mean...
Yeah, I'm basically conventional guitar. I've been playing since I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And growing up, I played in a lot of bar bands and bands that would do weddings and things like that. And mostly playing original music that we've written. But like anything else, I got out of that because I had little children and had to earn a living.
Okay.
And you have to be on the road all the time when you got little kids.
Yeah. Are you a vocalist?
No, not at all. I could clear a room in 2 seconds.
Okay. I mean, what were you playing? I mean, classic rock? I mean, what were your songs?
It was basically classic rock, anywhere from progressive rock to acoustic rock I'm doing a lot of writing now for different portions of the book. And depending on what I'm writing on is depending on the type of music I write.
Okay.
Such as when someone dies, you want to write a more of an acoustic type of song. When you're having a battle, you want to do basically a metal type of song.
Ooh, okay. So it's not just melody. You can write song lyrics as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Because I write songs myself, but I'm strictly a lyricist. I can't write melody, Peter. Yeah. I've been writing since I was 17, yeah.
Okay, I do it all. It's funny because my song lyrics are similar to the way I write books.
Ooh, okay.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Peter, whenever I interview an author on my show, I always ask the standard question. When you were growing up, who were your favorite authors? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or else influence your writing style?
Oh, yes. I mean, Tolkien, Herbert was very big on that. Also, Tracy Hickman. There's been so many authors that have inspired me. And basically what I've read was fantasy sci-fi, and that's what I've been attracted to. I did a lot of reading, particularly traveling back and forth to New York on the Long Island Railroad. Because it's an hour and a half each way, and you got the subways and everything else. So I used to read a lot, and that's what inspired me to get moving more into this type of field.
Okay. I mean, Herbert, the classic Dune books?
Yes, the classic Dune books are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, my mother was mad about Dune. I mean, she had all the volumes there. And when you think about it, that too is about, environmental and geological history when you look at that,
Right.
Yeah.
I got a lot of the adventure ideas too from Tolkien, from The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Getting back to Dune? What do you think of the new version now of the Hollywood version of Dune? What is your opinion of it? Did you like it or no?
I love the new version, but the funny part about it is I also love the old version.
You mean the Lynch version?
Yeah. But that version got into so much detail, whereas this didn't have the same type of detail. And you had likable characters in the first Dune, where in the second Dune, you really had no one that was truly likable.
Okay. Peter, most important question of all. Please tell our listeners, where can readers find your books?
They can be found on Amazon, on eBay, on barnesandnoble.com. They could also purchase it and read the synopsis of it and actually listen to audible chapters on my website at peterdechristopher.com.
Peter, what will be your next book project and when can we expect its release?
The next book I'm working on, I'm about 85 pages in. It's called Pangea, The Dark Elves of Morrobai, which is what it's tentatively named. It is a totally different setup from the first two books. This is really, truly more sci-fi and involved with fantasy. It's really a 180-degree difference, but it's really turning out to be fantastic.
Okay. Will we be seeing Isolde again?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You'll be seeing Isolde, Lorelei. You'll be seeing Moby the Dwarf. You'll be seeing the Warrows. They're all involved in this. But in a different aspect, the villain is no longer evil. The villain is now the Dark Elves and the Draco Reptilians that will come to Pangea.
If Hollywood, if your things ever get translated to Hollywood, what actress could play Isolde?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that, and Haley Berry comes to mind when I think of that.
Okay. Now, would you prefer it animated, or would you want a real actress in the flesh?
It's funny because if you look at the difference between the Lord of the Rings and the movies, and did you see the War of the Rohirrim?
No, I never did the Lord of the Rings things. Okay. I was never into that.
It's a much different movie. It is not as exciting. Animation could be very good, but it's got to be done right. And I think War of the Rohirrim really missed the mark.
Okay. Peter, I want to thank you so much for... tell me, again, when will your next book be coming out again?
It'll be coming out probably mid-next year.
Okay, I want let me know, and I want you on my show again, Peter. Okay, you're always welcome.
I thank you, man. No, I appreciate being here. I appreciate everything that you've done. I truly do.
Thank you very much, and good luck in your writing. Okay, again, keep me posted. I want you on my show next year. Okay.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You take care. Okay. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for my next show where I'll be interviewing author Maribeth Ditmars. Thank you and good night.